Let it Let it
Let's detox. Come on in. Let's take the exit for the detox tonight. Who are the brave that are still with me on day 28? Day 28. Who are the brave that are still with me? Come on. Good evening, Coach Maria, solutionist, producer, Ebony. Good evening, Tasha. Good evening, Cora. Hello, Anna, Nicole, Rochelle. Hello, Renee. You made it. Hello, Caitlin. Jessica, Audria, Prudence, Kingdom Health, liked and shared. Please take the time now to go ahead and like and share. Good evening, Brittany, Kamisha, Cherie. Good evening, Renee, Carmen, Karen, Dominique. Good evening, Tasha, Dolores, Noemi. Good evening. I see you, Vanessa, Gwendolyn, Candy, and Camille, the first one in the detox room tonight. Good evening. Hello, Ubi from Canada. How are you? How is your mom? Like and share. Good evening, Mike. He's our first man in the detox room tonight. Let me calm down because some of y'all said that I was not focused last night. So let me get my little focused self together. Good evening, Brenda Beery. Looking forward to some more testimonies from you. Good morning, Emmanuel Scroose. Greetings, my brother. God bless you. Good evening, Lydia, Audria, Pam, Kareem, Lourdes, Jerry. Hello, Destiny. The birthday finally over? Chevelle, Patricia. Thank you, Cora. She said she's still with me 28 days. And let me tell you, Cora, your affect, your appearance on Tuesday nights is so genuine and so pure, looking for the unadulterated truth on how you can live a better life, especially being a Christian, a practicing Christian, but learning how to incorporate the holistic part of who we are, the totality of who God made us. And your seriousness and commitment, I want you to know, second to none, baby. Second to none. Good evening. Come on in, family. We're moving fast. We're at 52. Thank you, Sharita and Carla, Lisa, Elitza, Rodney. Good evening, Brother Rodney. Diana, hello. Lisa Palmer and Carla. So glad to see y'all in here. Let's get started. We're going to talk about some narcissistic behavior on tonight. That has become a really, I don't even want to make it a household name, but everywhere you look, someone's talking about narcissism. People are being called narcissistic. They're being called and diagnosed by ex-lovers as being a narcissist. I mean, we're throwing that term around so loosely. It's in a way scary because if everyone is a narcissist who shows maybe some narcissistic behavior, we are in trouble. So we really need to learn about the narcissist as a diagnosis, and we need to learn about narcissistic traits as a personality disorder or personality issues. Because you will be surprised to know, and I'm going to start teaching already, that scientifically researchers have proven the most narcissistic individuals are children. Our children. Isn't that interesting? Think about the narcissistic behavior that maybe you've heard about that was the most pronounced behaviors that you've heard about the narcissist. And it's really children. Yeah, a lot of catchphrases. That's right, Corindas. And everyone's a narcissist. And we really need to understand how narcissistic behavior, narcissistic traits can show up in our non-narcissistic diagnosed personalities. Everyone doesn't have to be diagnosed as a narcissist to have narcissistic behaviors. Children are the most narcissistic, and they're not diagnosed as a narcissist. It's the behaviors. It's the everything is about me. I don't want to share. I want to make everything happen so that I can get my way. When I realized as an infant that when I cry, people come in the room, they pick me up, they give me a bottle, or they make me feel good by coddling me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to cry. I'm going to scream. So they learn manipulation. And at some point, the adults in their life are supposed to wean them off so that they don't grow into the narcissistic personality. So we're going to talk about how narcissism behaviors can show up as our defense mechanisms. But one thing that I have not seen shared from all the platforms, from professional therapists, from life coaches, from people who are just talking about from their experiences, even from some TED Talks, I still haven't seen anyone explain to us how someone becomes a narcissist. So that's what we're going to start tonight, because believe it or not, it starts from coping mechanisms. Narcissism starts from coping mechanism. It starts from maladaptive defense mechanisms. Maladaptive coping mechanisms, maladaptive defense mechanism. It's how it starts. So take a moment, please, like and share. And let's go ahead and start in our book tonight. We're going to be on chapter 7. Chapter 7, and we're going to talk about narcissism as a defense mechanism. The book is up there. There's the book. Hopefully it's the same way on whatever screens y'all are on. And get it. Get it. And if you do some of this work, you won't have to worry about too many of your defense mechanisms. So get your self-esteem together. Become self-aware in the red book. And then when you get the blue book, you can start looking at less defense mechanisms. So there's a good order to use these in as well. My producer is telling me that on your side, it's on the other side of the screen. So maybe I'll go something like this and see if I'm touching it now, because there's nothing on the screen that I'm doing it here. But perhaps for y'all it works. Perfect, she says. Amen. Come on, Ebony. Let me give you this. That's for you, Ebony. All right, go ahead. Well, I see Yvonne Ramos is in. So let's all go in and plug in what state that we're coming in from or what country we're coming in from. And let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Soul Detox, night 28. It is Sunday, January 29th. I am your host, Apostle Dr. Suzanne M. Howard, and I am going to take you into the detox room tonight. Come on into your session. Let's get comfortable. I want you to relax, and I want you to hear as I show you, if we do not handle those childhood issues, those childhood pains and traumas and undealt with memories, we can really end up with some real psychological issues. So let's talk from chapter 7 tonight from my book, Group Therapy, Defense Mechanisms. Narcissism is not a disorder. Narcissism is not a disorder. It's a trait, like a symptom. When someone has a pathological degree of narcissism, meaning an extreme inflexible amount, then they may be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. I'm legally not qualified to talk about that part, so I'm going to stick with my checklist, and I'm going to stick with what's in the book. Amen? Or they may not be diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder. Someone can have an extreme and inflexible degree of narcissism, but not meet the specific criteria for NPD. Okay? This does not mean that we cannot refer to them as a narcissist. NPD is not the only disorder or problem that has elements of narcissism. There are others, and they are not all personality disorders. Even still, contrary to popular belief, a person does not have to be diagnosed with NPD or any disorder to be considered a narcissist. What do you mean? I'm glad you asked. Just because they do not doesn't mean they are not narcissists. Narcissistic. A narcissist is not a diagnosis. A narcissist is not a diagnosis, and it doesn't need to be. It's a word we use to describe a type of person. Narcissist as a word is not a diagnosis, and it doesn't need to be, because it is just a word that we use to describe a type of person. So, if narcissism is not a disorder, why is it so problematic? Narcissism evolves as a defense mechanism against abuse or neglect most of the time. Did you hear that? So if narcissism is not a disorder, why is it so problematic? Narcissism, it evolves as a defense mechanism against abuse or neglect most of the time. Let's say there is a child whose parent ignores them most of their childhood. When the child does try to get attention, the child is spoken to harshly and pushed away. As the child grows, they become a scapegoat for the parent. The child is often blamed, abused, and neglected. The parent says and does horrible things to the child. You were a mistake. I wish you were never born. I hate you. I wish you were never born. You're worthless. You're stupid. And you're ugly. To a child, this is like hearing these things from God. Small children who are not valued by their parents do not value themselves. Doesn't it hurt to even hear that that would even come from a parent? I want y'all to type that in the chat. Type that in the chat. Children who are not valued by their parents do not value themselves. I want you to type that in the chat. Hello, Joel. Welcome. All right, McDonough, Georgia. Yes. Children not valued by their parents do not value themselves. So we often wonder, how did I end up with a low self-esteem? How did I end up with a dysfunctional self-esteem? How did I end up so dysfunctional? You are the fruit that fell from the tree. This is why when people make blanket statements, non-research, unstudied statements, like your childhood was what it was, get over it. Your parents made a mistake, get over it. Your parents did the best they could, get over it. That is like pouring gasoline on a fire to someone who has not been healed because they really literally have been raised by abusive parents. And for someone to go out there and make a blanket statements, get over your parents, let go of what your parents done to you, is shaming. It's shaming. It's a great disrespect to children who have grown up in a type of childhood dynamics that obviously these people haven't, who cannot understand. You cannot get over something. That's like telling us time heals. You will not get over it without help. You may have momentary success. You may have seasons of peace, but eventually it's going to be there and it's going to eat like a cancer until you get some help. Because kids who are not valued by their parents do not value themselves. This is how we learn our value system, our moral system, our belief system. This is how we learn this. We learn it from our parents. So if we were blamed as children, if we were abused as children, if we were neglected as children, if we were raised by people, whoever raised us, and they did horrible things to you as a child, telling you things such as, you were a mistake, I wish you were never born, even you're just like your father, I hate you, you're worthless, you're never going to be anything, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're a waste of my time, you're not worth my attention. Statements like that to a child is like, for those who really believe in God, it's as if God himself is saying that to you. Small children who are not valued by their parents do not value themselves. Horrible. The child's brain is immature and unable to defend against these words and the feelings that come along with the words. The only thing it can do is deny them. The only thing it can do is deny them and create a different reality for themselves. So that's what it does. This is where the delusional beliefs begin to start for narcissists. And the narcissist that is now being developed holds on to these words because attached to those words are those feelings, as well as the false self. The narcissistic personality has a false belief of themselves. The false self is the narcissist's defense against these hurtful words and the resulting hurtful feelings they now have for themselves. That's right, Cecilia. Words do stick. Words hurt. I remember when I was picked on in school because I was biracial, and the kids were calling me all kind of names and picking on me, and just all kind of bullying was happening. And my mother had her own business, and one of her clients I was talking to one day, and I was telling him about what I was going through in school. And he said to me, and y'all all have heard it now, but he said, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And I literally looked at this man and said, well, they do throw sticks and stones at me, and I don't feel those 2 days later. But those words that they say to me, I still hear those words. I hear them when I get up in the morning. I hear them when I have to get dressed for school. I hear them when I go to bed at night thinking about school in the morning. But I don't feel those sticks and stones 2 days later. But those words I sure do. And I was a little kid, and I could not checks and balance. I couldn't rationalize the statement that he made. Words will never hurt me. Like, that's the goal. That's the end goal. But words hurt. Like heck, they hurt. And to a child whose brain is immature and unable to offer a logical or rational defense against these words and the feelings that follow them, the only thing the child can do is begin to deny them And then they begin to create a different reality. This imagination comes in. And that's exactly what it does. This is where the delusional beliefs narcissists hold come from, as well as the false self, the false identity that they create. The false self is the narcissist's defense against these hurtful words and the resulting hateful feelings they have for themselves. And you cannot tell a narcissist that they hate themselves. They cannot believe it. They do not believe it because they don't have tangible facts that they do, but they do. It is the wall that the narcissistic personality hides behind. The only real defense they have. It's the only real defense that they have. It is their way of saying, look, I'm not bad. I'm good. I'm not worthless. I'm important. I'm not unwanted. I am necessary. And most importantly, I am not weak. I am strong. This is why it's so important to the narcissist that other people believe in their false self. It isn't for them. Isn't that interesting? It isn't for them. It's for the narcissist. How can something be untrue if other people believe it? Narcissists have no internal regulation system. They have no internal regulation system for their self-worth. Without input from others, it is zero. Isn't that sad? And the horrible thing is this is the true statement of hurt people. It's the narcissist. It's the narcissistic pattern, and the narcissistic behavior is the true example of hurt people. Because this personality has been hurt, abused, traumatized, neglected, physically, naturally, emotionally, psychologically, in so many ways that their self-worth is so much at zero that they don't have any self-worth unless they get it from things they accomplish or people. And they actually take on different identities. I'm not going to go into that right now. Without input for others, their self-worth is zero. This is what the so-called narcissistic supply is. This is why they need it. Because of the abuse they suffered, they did not develop the way they were supposed to. Their mind was too preoccupied with simple survival. Did y'all hear that? Simple survival. And as a result, their emotional capabilities are stuck in toddler mode. Woe to anyone who's dating or married or has to be in close communication with someone who has narcissistic trait or NPD, because they really end up being pretty abusive people. And they're doing it to survive their horrors every single day. Yes, simple survival. Their emotional capabilities are stuck in toddler mode. Toddler survival mode. They've never matured or been able to move on. They've never learned to deal with loss, to control their emotions, handle frustration, or how to soothe themselves. The best thing you can do is leave. It's nothing you can do on your own. The narcissists are still in an abusive situation, under attack all the time. Do you understand that? The narcissist is still in an abusive situation and under an attack all the time. And in a way, they really are. Their mind has never resolved the feelings of shame, self-hatred, and worthlessness from when they were young. They still experience these feelings as if the abuse is going on right now in real time. And the abuse they heard still plays over and over in their mind. So now, instead of coming from the outside, the abuse is coming from the inside. I want y'all to write that up on the screen. Chop that up. I know you're probably writing in your journals and in your books, but I want you to write that because I want this to stick with you. Instead of the abuse coming from the outside, you can just type abuse is coming from the inside. It's when we start hurting ourselves. Abuse coming from the inside. Let me see how we're doing up here tonight. We have 85 of us in, and we have 35 wows, hearts, and thumbs up. Pretty good. Thank you. Good, good, good. I see y'all writing. Very good. Yes, and that's the harsh reality for them every day, is that once that cycle, that pathology of abuse happened to them, now the abuse is happening automatically on the inside of them. Could you imagine being that individual? It is horrible. They still experience these feelings as if the abuse is going on right now, and the abuse they heard still plays over and over in their minds. So now, instead of coming from outside, the abuse is coming from the inside and has become a constant part of their inner dialogue. This is why they overreact to minor things. An overreaction to minor things. I cannot wait till I start training my coaches. One of the things that you can tell by their behavior is they overreact to minor things. Or misperceive things. That's the worst, because now they make you feel delusional. Or misperceive things as intentionally offensive or hurtful. They always feel as if someone is intentionally trying to hurt them. Someone's always trying to get them. Someone always trying to use them. Someone's always trying to trick them. Someone's always offending them or being hurtful to them. They're always a victim because that story that happened when they were younger, when they were in real time a victim, the abuse is happening on the inside. So they are a victim still to what happened to them as children. And worse than that, they bought into the fact that they're victims, and now it's self-sabotaging their life. They are not reacting in real time. Write that down. When you see someone who's overreacting, I mean, they're just like major in a minor event, they are not responding in real time. They are not responding in real time. They have something else going on in their mind. And if you've ever been with one, they can keep you into such a flurry that they will make you begin to question yourself. They turn people against each other, people who've been friends and family members forever or for a long time. They can turn people against each other because they're constantly manipulating to get all the love, the affection, the attention, and the praise to them. So they don't mind tearing up lifetimes of friendships. They don't mind tearing up families because they need all the attention and the love to be focused on them, because they are victims in their mind, even though their circumstance currently may no longer be victims. They could be in their 20s and 30s and 40s, free from that household abuse. But because of that strange tape that keeps playing over and over in their minds, their internal abuse is still happening. And the internal dialogue is on constant replay, and now they are abusing themselves. And this is why people begin to need drugs and other substances or sex or gambling to quiet the voices down in their head. They overreact to things. Remember, one of the defense mechanisms was acting out? They have no problem acting out. They have no problem showing themselves off. There's no self-respect. So they will go lower than low itself. They will go low. They will embarrass themselves. They will embarrass you because their self-worth is at 0. And you're like, why are you doing that? You're embarrassing yourself. They're at 0. They're like, embarrassing myself. It's hard to love. And if I can be honest about it, it's impossible to love them. You have to have the love of God to even endure something like that. And at that point, I would still say you're probably in an abusive relationship. Yes, Carmen Ortiz on YouTube. They do not respond in real time. They are reacting to that constant internal abuse and self-hatred that they now own. It is hard to watch, Corindas. Narcissists believe they are defective, disgusting, unlovable, wretched. If your parents don't love you, you must be despicable indeed. This is how narcissists grow up. A lot of people say that the narcissists they know were not abused. They were spoiled and coddled. Indulgence is abuse too. Can you please write that up on the screen for me? Indulgence is abuse too. There's abuse with the rod, and then the Bible tells us, spare not the rod. It's just like that locus of control. We have to be in the middle with things. Indulgence is abuse too. That's why it's called spoiling. When something is spoiled, it's ruined, right? You don't want anything that's spoiled. Indulging, commonly called spoiling, is a child ruins the child's potential as a person. When you're spoiling a child, you ruin the child's potential as a person. When a child is coddled, indulged, protected, and given everything they want, a lot of the same things happen that happen to children abused in more recognized ways. The child's development does not proceed as it should. They never learn how to handle their emotions, self-soothe, and deal with loss or disappointment. And they learn to connect their worth to the actions of others. It is the same mindset. If people don't give me what I want, it's because I am worth nothing. Narcissism is not cruelty or being mean. Separate the meanings. Narcissism isn't someone who's not sharing things. That's childlike behavior, right? Narcissism is self-centeredness arising from the failure to distinguish the self from external objects. Narcissism is self-centeredness. Type it. And the self-centeredness comes from the failure to distinguish the self from external objects. And we know the root is abuse. It's from home. That's why it burns me up when you make statements like, get over your parents, all this kind of stuff. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Do you know what people go through in their homes? No, you don't, because you don't research this. You haven't studied this. This isn't your lane. So stay out of the comments on it. It's not someone who's being cruel. That's separate. It's not someone who's being mean. It's not someone who just doesn't share. Those are pieces that show up in the narcissistic behavior. But narcissism is a self-centeredness arising from the failure to distinguish the self from external objects. This means that narcissists are unable to tell the difference between other people's feelings and their own, or to regulate their internal emotionality instead of relying on others to do it for them. It is the result of an arrested development. And indulgence can cause it just as much trouble, for the narcissistic defense mechanism will stay there, as other forms of abuse. Come on, we cooking with gas tonight. We have 87 in here tonight. Why aren't we over 100? People tagged out. They don't want to work on themselves. I've been watching this too, and I'm like, there's a few people in the Apostles' house are going to be in my office, taking their pastor's time as they can, calling me for their problems, right? As they should, it's their pastor, but are not on here for 30 days, growing like the rest of us, but are going to pull from what could have been learned in January and February because they don't think they need it. That's the scariest mindset ever, is people who don't think they need this. We all need this, from a basic level to an intermediate level to an advanced level. We all need this. And it's the same people I watch on here, and I'm like, watch February. They're going to be the first ones needing some appointment time, holding me up after church, stopping me in the hallway, calling me on my days off because they don't want to spend 30 days in personal development. But they're going to be the first ones knocking on the door when I'm back at church in February. That's right, Kamisha. That's right, Jerry. We all need this. The Apostles' house, look through these names. And who you don't see in here, tag them. Tag them. Say, this is about personal development. This is for you. This is for every human being. You're going to need help in January, February, and March, and a lot of it you could have learned right here. The arrogance. Let me sip my tea after I sneeze. Excuse me. Imagine your self-worth truly relying on other people. Could you imagine that? To the point that if you did not do what you wanted, you didn't feel like life was worth living. Imagine having to pretend you are someone else every second of every day. Thank you. And being so afraid that people would find out who you were. And you felt that you were disgusting, something not worthy of love. Imagine being unable to provide for your own basic emotional needs and simply having to suffer until someone did it for you. Imagine being unable to see that this is the problem and instead believing that everyone in your life tortures you and wants you to suffer because they are cruel, the world is awful, everybody's abusive, and everyone hates you. This is why they react the way they do when they don't get what they want. It doesn't matter why they didn't get it. In their reality, it is perceived as malicious and purposeful withholding, which causes a narcissistic injury. A narcissistic injury is something that's a threat or offense to their fragile self-worth. We could call it a blow to the ego, and it is. But because of the way the narcissists are wired, this phrase does not describe how severe of an injury it really is. Narcissists interpret it as life-threatening. It is life-threatening to them. This is why narcissistic injuries cause narcissistic rage. Come on, Cora. It causes narcissistic rage. They feel they are fighting in defense for their very lives. In a way, narcissism is the perfect defense mechanism. Listen up. There is an excuse for everything, a reason why everything is someone else's fault. They never have to listen to criticism, take responsibility, or blame. They have justifications for everything they do wrong, and it's usually because of you if you hadn't. With narcissistic projection, they can project their painful or uncomfortable emotions and thoughts about themselves onto others. And then the narcissist does not even have to own it. Everything, and I mean everything, belongs to someone else. However, because narcissists is not truly able to separate themselves from the external world, it still all belongs to them. This is endlessly frustrating, like trying to throw a boomerang away. It just keeps coming back. It's sadly ironic that for all their complicated and convoluted machiniزms and designed to defend themselves against all of the abuse they believe they are experiencing, they aren't escaping anything. They cannot escape the abuse, even though they don't realize it, because now it's coming from the inside. They are only providing themselves temporary relief at best. And it comes at the expense of the very thing they need most, validation from other people. Anybody getting something tonight? Just lift your hands. Man, my eyes are so open tonight, I don't know if they're going to be able to close after this. The more they blame, abuse, and hurt other people, the worse other people's opinions of them become. Eventually, these people leave, tired of the abuse and tired of the games. Then the narcissist is left alone with the very person they hate the most, themselves. God help the child. So we've got a few minutes left. Let's see how much here. We have their defense mechanism. We have why they use projection. Yeah, I think we can handle this tonight. Let's go for it. Got a few minutes left. So let's talk about the dynamics of narcissism. The dynamics, understanding yourself, getting some help for yourself or for others, your children if you see it in them, your spouse. Primitive defense mechanisms. Narcissism is a defense mechanism. Isn't that amazing? Related to the splitting defense mechanism. Hold on. The narcissist fails to regard other people, situations, or entities, including political parties, countries, races, their workplace, even their home, and a compound of good and bad elements. They either idealizes his objection or devalues it. The object is either all good or all bad. Woo, I know this one. The bad attributes are always projected, displaced, or otherwise externalized. Remember the locus of control? So the narcissist would be the externalizer. Everything is someone else's fault. And I mean everything. The good ones are internalized to support their inflated, grandiose ego. The self-concept of the narcissist and his grandiose fantasies. And to avoid any pain at all of deflation and disillusionment, they only take credit for the good. Even the good in your life. Do not let them have given you some advice. You're going to hear about it for years. The narcissist pursues narcissistic supply. Make sure that you are not a narcissistic supplier. Who keeps attracting them? Think about it. How are we supplying the narcissist? The narcissist pursues narcissistic supply. Attention, number one, both positive and negative, and uses it to regulate his fragile and fluctuating sense of self-worth. And it's so sad because the little child needed so much love and attention, the very thing that you are there to give them. But because they're so abused and hurt and traumatized, they can't even receive the love and the support and the affection that you're giving them, because what they needed as a child has now turned into just craziness, unstableness, for a better mental health coach word. They can't receive the love. They can't even appreciate your love. They don't even believe you love them because their self-worth is at zero. No matter how much you show them, forgive them, support them, you deal with their fears, with them not having income. You deal with them bringing in baggage. You deal with, and they cannot believe that you love them because the self-worth is at zero. So they're always wanting more, always demanding more, always insisting on more, but you are not a good person to them. And you can actually be a part of the narcissistic supply. Number two, we're talking about the dynamics of narcissism. Let's talk about the dysfunctional family. Research shows that most narcissists are born into dysfunctional families. Such families are characterized by massive denials, both internal, and I'll give you an example. You do not have a real problem. You are only pretending. Or an external. You must never tell the secrets of the family to anyone. That's the dynamics of the family they were raised in. Abuse in all forms is not uncommon in such families. These families may encourage excellence, but only as a means to a narcissistic end. The parents are usually needy, emotionally immature, and narcissistic, and thus unable to recognize or respect the child's emerging boundaries and emotional needs. This often leads to defective or partial socialization and problems with sexual identity. That's a whole nother teaching we could do. Let's talk about the dynamics of narcissism. The issue of separation and individuation. According to psychodynamic theories of personal development, parents, which are the primary objects, and more specifically, the mother. That's why follow the Apostles' House on YouTube. I did about a 2-month teaching on the deflection of particular type of mothers. More specifically, mothers are the first agents of socialization. It is through his mother that the child explores the most important questions, the answers to which will shape his entire life. Later on, she is the subject of his nascent sexual cravings, speaking for the male child. A diffuse sense of wanting to emerge physically as well as spiritually. This object of love becomes idealized and internalized and becomes part of our conscience. Growing up entails gradual detachment. I'm not going to go there because it would be in poor taste right now, but I want you to think of these 2 horrific murders that we are now learning were done at the hands of police officers, right? Who are there to serve and to protect. And by the way, I have a client who's a police officer, and we spent a whole couple hours yesterday talking about how this affects the officers who are good officers, and how their life is really at more danger, at stake now for danger than ever before. We had a really, really positive conversation about this, and there needs to be more people talking to police officers online instead of showing this video over and over, because this video is only going to bring up more hate. We really got to bring the good officers in and show that there's a large portion of them, but it is not all of them. You know, just like pastors and churches and Christians, right? But I want you to understand that these two horrific murders, and that word isn't even harsh enough. The two men yelled something out. They were calling for someone in particular. And y'all probably know what it is. You don't have to put it on the screen. I just want you to think about how powerful that role is that she has in her son's life. And when you don't know this, the damage you actually do with the power you hold in that role that you're not even aware of. Growing up entails a gradual detachment from the mother and the redirection of the sexual attraction from her to other socially appropriate objects. These are the keys to an independent exploration of the world, personal autonomy, and a strong sense of self. If any of these phrases is thwarted, sometimes by the mother herself, who won't let go, the process of differentiation or separation, becoming individuals, is not completed. Autonomy and a coherent sense of self are not achieved, and the person is characterized by dependence and immaturity. Now that I'm not referring to the two guys. I just want you to know the power of the role of the mother. It is by no means universally accepted that children go through a phase of separation from their parents and the consequence of becoming individuals. Let me go down some. Childhood traumas and the development of the narcissistic personality. And this is where we can wrap it up at. Early childhood abuse and traumas trigger coping strategies and defense mechanisms. Let me say it again. Early childhood abuse and traumas trigger coping strategies and defense mechanisms, including narcissism. One of the coping strategies is to withdraw inwards, to seek gratifications from a secure, reliable, and permanently available source for oneself. The child, fearful of further rejection and abuse, refrains from further interaction and resorts to grandiose fantasies of being loved and self-sufficient. Repeated hurt may lead to the development of the narcissistic personality. Narcissistic as a defense mechanism are a series of actions or reactions which tends to be enforced by a person, either consciously or unconsciously, to attend to their desired eventualities. A narcissist or a person suffering from narcissism will want certain situations to pan out the way they want it to, and certain relationships to be exactly what they desire and they would want for themselves. Not delving into the traits of a narcissist, since it is a subject that warrants a long discussion, here is what the obvious and various narcissistic defense mechanisms are. One of the most common narcissistic defense mechanism is repression. Repression. In most cases, the repression is unconscious, but if a person is aware of his or her narcissistic personality, he or she may consciously repress many things. Repression can be facts, emotions, situations, or expressions. You've had to have been with us these 30 days in order to understand what I'm saying right there with repression. There are various forms of repression, of which the most pertinent and also the most dangerous or unhealthy is the repression of another person. Repression of everything associated with the person or the relationship the narcissist has with the person is a way to repress the individual in totality. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. A narcissist would seldom repress another person partially. Narcissism leads to absolutism, and the unconscious or conscious repression may become absolute in no uncertain terms. Another very common narcissistic defense mechanism is denial. A narcissist would be in denial of everything that he or she, because it's not male only. This doesn't require a male gender only. It's human. A narcissist would be in denial of everything that he or she doesn't consider to be in their best interest. If there is anything that they don't like, don't wish to accept, or simply want to reject, there will be conscious denial on the part of the narcissist. Unconscious denials also exist, but to lesser degrees. In most cases, repression is mostly unconscious, but denial is almost always conscious. Write that down. Denial is almost always conscious. That's powerful. Unconscious denials also exist, but to lesser degrees. In most cases, repression is mostly unconscious, but denial is almost always conscious. These are natural narcissistic defense mechanisms that will be prevalent in anyone who has any iota of narcissism in him or her. Distortion is also one of the more common narcissistic defense mechanisms. One would indulge in distortion of facts, exaggeration of emotions or realities, minimization of grave situations to enforce their superiority or pseudo-righteousness, and would also indulge in blatant lying in the process. It is so deep. If you haven't dealt with this, this probably sounds like mumble jumble in your mind. But if you've dealt with this, you are seeing people right now. You are seeing situations, circumstances, or events. Projection is also another common narcissistic defense mechanism. Using this potent weapon, a narcissist tends to seek control of someone else. In most cases, it is to blame or enforce guilt on the other person. And we're not going to touch why they do the projection. And we are almost at our time end. So I'm going to end it with this part for tonight. If you are dealing with a narcissist, it is important to be aware of their use of projection. Be prepared to deal with their gaslighting. Their gaslighting attempts, as the narcissist accuses you, they will attempt to make you believe it's true. Your friends too. No one is safe from the narcissist. It is important that they defame your name and they spread it to the people who are closest to you, the people who love you, the people who have an undying loyalty and commitment to you. It is important to them that they ruin your name with them. And if they know anything, if you've had any pillow talk with them, or maybe you shared frustration that you've had in the moment regarding a friend, and maybe later on, it just blew away. It was just, how we go through stuff, conflict in relationships. They will hold on and gather this information, very manipulative. They will gather this and they will use it against you with your friends to make them to believe that they know a whole bunch of things that their person is talking about you, and they only know one thing. This person, I just can't stand so-and-so. She just getting on my nerve regarding this thing. Then the next day, be like, that's my home girl. I was just bugging last night. They will hold that. And they will use that with that friend to cause that little fracture in the relationship. And have that friend thinking, oh, you don't know how much more I know. You don't know how much they be saying about you. They talk about you all the time. Let me tell you, if I didn't know what I was talking about, I wouldn't know this, right? And they give you one line. And that's all they know. And they'll have you buying into and believing just so they can cause a fracture in that relationship. They don't care how long you've been friends, how close. They don't care if God is the center of that relationship. They don't care if it's blood is the center of that relationship. It's not centered around them, and they will do whatever they can to destroy it. And they have been successful in destroying long-term relationships. It's nasty. It's sick. It's evil. You can feel the evil from it. So be prepared to deal with their gaslighting, and you better let your friends and family know. Their gaslighting attempts, as the narcissist accuses you, they will attempt to make you believe it. You may need to set boundaries and communicate assertively to protect yourself from their manipulative behavior. If a narcissist is a drug addict, an alcoholic, or a cheating person, then they will project it all onto you, avoiding all accountability for what they are doing. Since narcissists are compulsive liars, they then will project their lies onto you to make you look bad and to gain sympathy from others. Remember this, even from your friends, your church family, your pastor, your animals, your pets, it doesn't matter. They are going to project their insecurities, their pain, their lying selves onto you and to anyone who will give them an ear. If people are not truly your friends, you're going to find out when this narcissist shows up, because they're going to divide the wheat from the tear. Because if you have a friend that has any kind of issue or jealousy with you, they're going to sow just enough to show that that person was not there with you for the long run, and that person's going to fly or turn against you or team up with the narcissist against you. Your friends going to have to really be your friends to help you get through or survive a narcissist. Because I'm telling you, they are wickedly good in an oxymoron way. They will turn it around and they will have the whole camp confused. And I mean family as well. There's people that I know that still have not reconnected from the damage of a narcissist, and that girl is long gone and the family is still suffering from her damage. And they're still confused, and they still don't know if what she said was truth or not. That's how wicked it is. They have to gain sympathy from others. That's how they feel better about themselves. Narcissists use projection as a way to shift the narrative away from their behavior and place their faults onto others. If you are getting a divorce, they will project their issues onto you through the court by lying to their lawyers or a child custody evaluator, a mediator, family, friends, or foe. If they are being investigated by the IRS, they will project their financial issues onto you. If they have been caught doing something in the church, they will project that onto you. They have turned, I've seen couples that one was a narcissist and they have split a church because of the confusion and the web that they yield. Narcissists use projection as a way to deflect their problems and place the blame on someone else, usually someone who they love or someone who they know loves them. Let me put it in the proper order. Usually on someone that they know loves them, because that person who loves them is left less threatening to them. I wish I wasn't trying to rush through this tonight. Did y'all hear that powerful line? I need you to take this with you. They will use projection as a way to deflect their problems and place the blame on someone else. And that someone else is someone that they know loves them. Because remember, they were not raised with people who showed them love. So they were probably people who didn't love them. So to them, love is weakness. So when you love a narcissist, you are less threatening to them, and they will put all of this on you. You need therapy after this. Projection is a common defense mechanism that we all use to some degree. However, narcissists use it excessively and in harmful ways. This is also known as narcissistic abuse. I hope I've been a help to you tonight. I hope that you found yourself in this in any way, that you will find a therapist immediately. Do not waste any more hours, days, weeks, months, or years being in such a gaslit position or gaslighting someone yourself. There is a better life available to you. And there are people that are trained in this, that would be more than willing to see you come through this and live life on the other side. It is the better side in this case. I am your host, Apostle Dr. Suzanne Howard. I have been with you on this 28th Soul Detox, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Monday night, same time and same station. God bless you. I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. God bless you and good night.